What up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. First video of the year. Hopefully everybody had a good New Year's. First time I'm starting a video, and I hope it's terrible. I know it's gonna be. Me, Alex, and Jake are on a little road trip. We just went out to go get a mill for the shop. It's in tow right now. We're on our way to go to my dad's shop to go look at a lathe. He does hard chrome plating. But in the meantime, we're making a little pit stop to get Alex's dog food, which I'm ecstatic about. If I were to die and be reincarnated as an animal, it would be Alex's dog. That dog eats better than normal human beings. And hopefully we have more things to talk about. Not me, but other people to talk.
Hey guys, happy 2022. Hopefully your guys' holidays were good. Like Joey was saying, we just went and picked up a little geared head mill. It's a tabletop grizzly. Super stoked about it. The price is right. And we got hooked up with a phase converter, so now we can run 3-phase tooling. Next stop, we're stopping by Joey's family's company. We're gonna go check out an Atlas lathe. See if it's something we can use. Just trying to get our capabilities up there. Actually, we'll be going back to the shop later. We gotta cut some 1/4-inch spacers for like a rack on a car. That's where those lathes and mills, they come in super useful. I just cut some motor plates for this project. You guys will see an update here shortly. Making motor plates for the SCAT PACK engine, and not having a mill to do your layup, having to do it manual with drill press, you know, adds a lot of time. So I'm pumped about the mill. I don't know how pumped these guys are, but this is my favorite game. Just cruising around buying tools. Love it. So we'll take you back, get you back at the shop, see us unloading this. It wasn't too bad. It was me, Alex, and a couple other guys threw it in the truck. But it's 22 degrees outside right now, so the hands were pretty cold grabbing this cast iron and putting it in the trailer. So, alright, we'll catch you guys in a little bit after we get this dog food. We'll make a quick stop. So I'll see you guys at the shop. Welcome to the shop. Like we said, we stopped and looked at a little lathe. Didn't know what it was an Atlas. Currently I have at my storage unit, which we're in process of getting it up here, is a South Bend Heavy 10, and it's already been through, like gone through, cleaned up. So comparing the two lathes, I just need a chuck for mine. It has a 8 thread per inch spindle on it. So after seeing the lathe, we're just gonna run with ours and try to get a chuck for it and get it over here. But what's awesome, I'll give you guys a little look. The other issue with my lathe is it was a 3-phase, and I was looking at getting a different motor. So I don't know if you guys are familiar, if you're ever getting tooling for your shop. This is a rotary phase converter. So pretty much you run your 220 or 240 to that, and then from there you can power your 3-phase equipment. So super stoked about that. That came with the mill. And like I said, it's a geared head grizzly. It's got power feed on the x-axis, which is super cool. It's got a rapid transverse on it. It's a little bit dirty, but it's used. And then looking at the bedways, other than just like dust piled up on top of the oil, you can see a lot of the scraping on the ways. Looks good. It's gonna do what we need, absolutely. So excited. I mean, this would have cut probably 3 hours out of making these motor plates I just did, because the material thickness, be able to run with an end mill. So awesome addition. We just got to do a little bit of wiring, nothing major. We're going to post that rotary phase converter up in the air compressor room so it's out of sight. And I'm going to run it on a 220 outlet. You can only run one or the other so you don't overload the circuit. So if you're running this, cool. If you want to run the lathe, you'd have to switch it over so you could only run the lathe or the mill, not at the same time with the phase converter we got. So it came with a nice, it doesn't belong with this one, but it works great. Nice Bridgeport milling vise. Has the original handle with it. It's got a little light, everything works. So it's pretty cold. It's been kind of a long day, just trying to take care of everything. So we're actually probably gonna try to get this thing off the trailer and go get something to eat. And next time you guys will see it up and running, you're gonna be seeing a lot. Oh yeah, one other thing, we got forward to revert so we can power tap, which is way better than using the old tap handle if you got the ability for small plate layups, whatever the case may be. You want to power tap, you got the option now. So like I was saying, it's getting late, so we're gonna fill you guys in where we're at with the Genesis, but right now we're starving. We just got back. It's been a long cold day, looking at all this equipment walking around from Youngstown to Cleveland. So we'll be back shortly after we get some grub in us.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back. It's another day, and we got that mill unloaded. Actually, Jake, Joey, and our buddy Zach got it off the trailer, and it's right behind me. So that is all put back together after we took it apart, and that's where it's going to be located. We still got to do some wiring to get it all hooked up, but it's a pretty nice unit. We are super stoked on it. Our buddy Jay hooked it up. He ended up not needing it, so we got it from him. And we still got to bring a mill over here. So this corner is going to need to be rearranged because it looks pretty cluttered over here. And we need to do something about it. We end up getting that motor, as you already know, or a three-phase converter that needs to be hooked up for that mill. But that's for another day. We're gonna get that done. We're gonna give you an update on this motor swap here shortly. And currently I'm gonna be working on the Z. As I told you before, my water neck hose on the very top of the radiator got busted, so Jake ended up cutting the piece that goes on the block or on the head side. He ended up cutting it and re-welding it a little bit farther in, so I can have a little bit longer hose running from this fitting down to there. So right now I just got set up to do that, and I'll show you what I got going on. So here's that piece that goes on the block, and as you can see, there was a bolt here that used to be a bleeder for OEM setup, but we're not needing that, so that's where we cut it shorter. And he ended up re-welding me a new dash 16 fitting. And I also got some new O-rings for this piece that connects both tubes together, and a new gasket that goes on the back side. Both of these I got it from Drift Motion. If you guys need any kind of 2JZ parts or gaskets or anything, they got it all. And here are my hoses. So I got a black one, we got a left from a different project, and here's the silver ones that I run on my car. I thought about going with the black one because it feels like it's a little more flexible, but then there's just going to be one hose that's out of color, and I don't think I want to do that. So I'm going to probably end up using the silver braiding. So I end up cleaning this up a little bit and hitting it with a little paint. So we're going to go ahead and put this in now, and then measure and cut our hose and make a new piece. So it sits a lot farther in now, so I'm excited to get this hooked up, make a new hose, bleed the system, and then finally fire this thing up. It's been sitting for way too long, and maybe we'll take it outside and do a couple donuts. So I'm gonna get to that right now, and Joey's over there reinstalling the original rack from the Challenger, because we were gonna use this electrical rack from here. Joey said what's up.
What up?
But this whole motor assembly is way too large for the subframe on this car. We thought about modifying it and cutting it, but there's just no room on the subframe on the back side where the oil pan sits, and we'll show you that in a little bit. Once the car is on the lift, we can go up and give you a little update what we got going on up there. So let me make this hose, and then we'll come back to this Challenger swap. Alright boys, so I got the line installed, and we actually had some technical difficulties. We had to jump start the car because the battery was completely dead. Like I said, it was sitting around for a little while. So right now I got the coolant in there. It's bleeding itself, so we're going to let it go through a couple heat cycles, get all the bubbles out, top it off if we have to. But right now, no leaks so far. You get a light in here. So here's the line. It's a little bit more straighter now than it was before it had a big kink in it. So I like it. So far there's no leaks, everything looks legit. I do have to do a little bit of cleanup down there just because it's coolant came out whenever we pop that neck off. But I'm gonna put that on the lift on one of these days and get it all cleaned out. So I'm gonna let this be for now. There's still some bubbles coming out of it, and the car is still warming up. Where we at? Yeah, it's getting up to temperature now. So I'm gonna let that run for a little while, get all the bubbles off, put a cap on it, and then I'll probably pull it out and take it for a short cruise around here. All right guys, so the line is in and I bled the system, so it is all good, no leaks. And here's the finished product. So hopefully this thing will not bust. It is short as you see it, but it was way shorter before, and it would keep kinking in the middle on the inside right here, and it would bust. Oops. And it would start leaking. So now, since this is all the way in there and Jake fixed that up, hopefully this is gonna stay put, and if not, we got to go with the black hose because that one's a little bit more flexible than this one. And I'll probably take this thing for a spin here shortly just to get the tires rotated. It's been sitting around for a while, so I kind of do want to at least take it a spin around the parking lot. And the next thing I want to do, guys, is at some point before the season is back and the car is drivable on the road, I want to go ahead and get my AC lines adapted right down there. Everything is ran and hooked up, all the wiring is all good, so I just need to get my tips adopted like I told you before in previous videos. So at some point I'm going to go ahead and pull the intake manifold and we will do the custom AC lines. So if you guys are looking to see how those are done, stay tuned, and in one of these videos we're going to show you. But let's get an update on the SCAT PACK swap and we'll show you what we got. Alright, here's what we got going on over here. Start from the front. We end up cutting the forward section of the core support out just because the oil pan doesn't really fit whenever you try and drop the motor in and it hits the forward section. So we got the plates on it tacked on for now, and then we're gonna end up using a piece of tube, DOM tubing, and we're gonna have a slight bend forward and then down and back around to this portion. So it is gonna act like a maybe a bash bar, or just not a bash bar, but just like a first point of contact with the ground before the oil pan. The oil pan will have to get cut and moved forward, but that's still ways away. Jake's been working on these engine mounts. You can kind of see it. The plates are cut and they're both in there right now, or one of them's in there. And we've been trying to utilize the OEM mount because customer wanted to be as soft as possible, or I should say no shakes or no vibration whenever the engine is idling. But as you can see, that stud that's sticking out is way too close to those headers, and I don't think we can go any higher as far as the engine position, because the hood scoop is going to be way too high sticking out of the top of the hood, and it's just not going to look right. So that side, the left side, is not as bad. The driver's side is way worse because the header is slightly bent in a different position, so it almost touches the bottom of the header. So we're gonna have to make something along the line of this LS mount that we got here, something like that with a tube and isolator in the middle. So that's something we're thinking about it right now. It hasn't been finalized just yet. Jake is not here today, so he might be here tomorrow. Just trying to figure out exact plan and how we're gonna go about it, but it's getting there. So next thing is the engine, or I should say your mount for the transmission. This one should be pretty simple. We're just gonna pick up these isolator bolt holes and just do a U bracket like most of the swap brackets you see, and just pick up the OEM holes, and that's gonna be it. And once that's positioned, we're gonna go ahead and measure our drive shaft length and get that out to the drive shaft shop. Gonna make us a nice solid drive shaft. So very close on finalizing the position of the motor. And then another thing, I know I mentioned before that we're gonna do a drive or steer-by-wire rack from the Challenger, but it's just not gonna happen. There's a lot of thought been put into it, and that motor that sits on the back of the rack on the Challenger is just way too large, where it hits, basically comes down to like somewhere over here in the middle of this subframe support, and there's going to be a lot of cutting that we really don't want to do, because that is the main structure of the core support. And then if we even cut it and try to move it back, you can't really do it because this part slopes down, and then you don't want to have your core support so low to the ground. So we're going back to the OEM rack, and we're gonna have to make a power steering bracket that's gonna sit somewhere over here in this area that we're gonna mount so we can have our power steering pump. And this is the pump we're going to be using. I'm just going to show you that real quick. So first we're going to try to use this OEM pump from the Genesis and see if this is going to work. I don't see why not. Should be pretty simple. Bracket and a different belt, and it has plenty of room right in this area to mount it. So that's going to be the plan for that. There is very little clearance right over here between the oil pan and the steering rack itself, so we're thinking we're going to make small spacers that go in between the subframe and the the rack itself, just to move it down so slightly so there's no rattling going on. But that's the plan up front, and I think that's going to work out just fine. Other than that, me and Joey have been working on front core support. Right now I'm going to set up the camera so it's stationary, and we're going to show you what we got going on. We are using Challenger's radiator and a condenser for the AC, so we kind of cut up the core support right now, and we're just fabricating our own bracket to make it all fit and mount the way we want it to. So let me set you guys down. I'm going to show you what we got. All right guys, I lied. We didn't set you down. We tried to put this together kind of on the table so we can work with it and show you what we got going on. So right now Joey's working on this. Basically what is going to happen in here, like I said, we're using the Challenger's radiator and a condenser. So with the OEM setup, it does not fit in core support, so we end up chopping the whole section, the middle section out, and fabricating this top for our mount, just to tie in two headlight brackets from left to right This was just made out of your regular stock, and then we bended and welded our ends on the same degree angle that the OEM setup is set to. So in the bottom, we're just using a piece of metal. That's where a radiator is going to be sitting on, just because it's so much taller than the Genesis and so much thicker than the Genesis. The whole setup of the fans, it does have to come forward when it's all installed. So right now we're going to go ahead and cut our holes in this piece of metal. Here we marked them on the left and the right side, and they're going to be for the bottom radiator brackets, or the nipples that sit in your isolators. So that's where these are going to go, and we're going to see if we can utilize the OEM setup and drop it down, but I don't know if it's going to be low enough to where the radiator is going to tuck behind its core support. So basically the whole idea is to move the radiator as far forward as we can up to this point. That way we have room between the fans and your bracketry or all your pulleys, because otherwise it sits right against it and it does not work. So, and with that kind of setup, we have a good amount, just moving that whole section forward. And then once the radiator is in, we'll have to fabricate the brackets for the top to hold it on the back side over here. And the condenser is actually going to sit right in front of it. It's going to be spaced out, and it's going to mount to your radiator on your OEM bracketry. So let us drill these holes right now, and we'll do a test fit, make sure it works, and if we can use the isolators that came from OEM car, or we would have to do something else if it's not loading up. All right, there you go, guys. The holes are drilled. So now this radiator sits in the hole where it's supposed to go, and we're trying to see if we can open up the hole to use this OEM Genesis isolator in this, but it's a little bit too high, and we don't have much room on top where it fits between this bar. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but there's room here, but we cannot go as high as this. So we do have some isolators laying around. This is one of them, and I think this is going to work out perfectly. You can see this one will fit. So we're going to pop this radiator off and see if it's going to sit in here nicely or not, just because of this chamfer section. So we'll find out here in a second. But the radiator does fit. This is just a rough sketch of it. It still needs to be leveled and all. And we've got to build brackets up at the top that we can screw this or have some kind of mounting bracketry. But this is what I was talking about. Condenser is going to sit in front of it. It's going to need to be spaced out just because of how it sits now in front of this new bracket. So we will cut some new spacers for these brackets, the OEM brackets, top and bottom, and it's going to look something like this. So not too bad. It still all needs to be cleaned up. This is still like a rough draft sketch of it, but there's going to be a lot of trimming still and finalizing everything so it sits all nice and pretty and leveled. There you go, Joey just got these holes drilled. Isolators are in, looking pretty nice, both sides. So I'm gonna go ahead and slap that on. Make sure it all goes together. Ooh, like butter. There you go. We still got a little clearance there, so that's nice. And same thing on this side. Let's get this radiator back in. There you have it, guys. It's in. Actually, it fits nicely. After putting isolators in and basically setting it where it needs to be, we got an equal gap on the radiator all the way down, so it sits where it needs to be. But we're still gonna have to run a small spacers. This is just temporary washers to give this a clearance. Looking down, I'll show you that right now. We don't need much, just as long as it doesn't touch and make contact while driving. That's all we're looking for. Other than that, it looks pretty good. Actually happy with the result, how it came out. And here's the back side. This is the plan how we're gonna run the backside. And here's the isolator itself, sitting pretty good. Radiator's got space on the bottom, plenty of it. And just to mount this in and tie it all together, so we're still using the piece of the core support that's over here, but to tie it all together, we're gonna end up putting same piece of plate right in here. So we're gonna cut a groove in the middle so it can slide down in there, and then we'll sandwich it with probably 4 bolts, or maybe we'll put some rib on the top side, and then you can screw it in from the inside. But we're gonna have to cut that little section out, and then we'll trim all this down so it looks nice and even and pretty, and then we'll cut a slit in the metal, and then we'll just slide in there, pick up our holes from the back side, get the rib nuts or the nuts, we'll see how it goes. And that way the whole bottom is going to be tied together, and it's going to be pretty strong. The top, as I told you before, or you've seen it before, we got these guys. This is just temporarily. We still need to get some spacers in there just because of the shape of this OEM core support. It doesn't really allow me to bend that aluminum the way to make it all. That's why it doesn't want to focus. There you go. So it still has a little gap. Maybe we'll close it off or something. We'll see. But that's basically the core support idea, and we're still gonna do all the trimming so it looks nice and even on both sides. We'll paint it so it's all nice one color, solid. Probably gonna end up spraying this black, matte black, just to match everything else, and then we'll get the bottom bracket painted. We'll put that on the car and it will be looking great. So there's still a lot of work to do with the core support. We're probably going to carry on with that the other day, and then Jake's going to pick up on the motor mounts. So hopefully in a few days this thing is going to be sitting on its own and the core support is going to be in it, so we can start actually plumbing the brake lines, the fuel lines, and all that good stuff. You know how it goes. So this is going to be it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this short video. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, check out our merchandise, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.